Like I have a 220 buck and a 230 buck right now at home, the replicas in the office. And when people come in, they come into the office and they're like, what the hell are those? And I'm like, and they get talking. I'm like, which one did you shoot? I'm not even kidding. More than half the people have picked the 220 buck over the 230 buck because they're big. And that's what I love about mule deer is they're so different. I mean, you get a 220 deer, and I got one that's pushing 30 inches wide, and he's short tine, but he's got almost 50 inches of mass. So then you get a 230 buck that's deep forked, kind of a little bit more spindly, but not as big or wide. And so mule deer are so fascinating to me, and it's just every one of them is different. It's like you never find one except for the straight typical that is just like, oh man, like. Well, I've killed a couple like that. At least me, where we're at, the genetics are just unreal. I mean, that 240 buck they killed this year was just stupid.
Incredible.
Stupid.
These are stories of outdoor adventure and expert advice from folks with calloused hands. I'm James Nash, and this is the Six Ranch Podcast. The Six Ranch Podcast is brought to you by SIG Sauer. SIG is a leading provider and manufacturer of firearms, electro-optics, ammunition, air guns, and suppressors. For over 250 years, SIG Sauer Inc. has evolved and thrived by blending American ingenuity, German engineering, and Swiss precision. Today, SIG Sauer is synonymous with industry-leading quality and innovation, which has made it the brand of choice amongst the U.S. military, the global defense community, law enforcement, competitive shooters, hunters, and responsible citizens. SIG Sauer is also a premier provider of elite firearms instruction and tactical training at the SIG Sauer Academy located in New Hampshire. For more information about SIG Sauer and its complete line of products, visit sigsauer.com. So, I mean, at which point do you start growing ear hairs?
If I would have known this, I would have been taking care of it since day one, James. It just hit me
How long did it get?
It was like a quarter inch, half inch. That's long enough for an ear hair. I feel like any length is too long.
I think at some point you reach this level where you can just like start growing out your eyebrows and your ear hair and like get these big professor eyebrows.
Yeah.
Just let it go.
I'm not there yet.
But you are growing ear hair.
Are you recording this?
Yeah, absolutely.
We weren't started yet, James.
Yeah, we have.
Oh, man. Yeah, I just that's where I hit. And there was something else that just happened recently where it was those come to Jesus moment where I was like, I'm old. I'm getting old.
I like the gray hairs.
I've rocked the gray for a long time.
Yeah.
Ever since I was like, I think after my second deployment, they just started popping up out of nowhere. And I messed up and I plucked them at first. I was like, what is this? Is this a gray hair? And pink. And then the next day there was 10 more.
Yeah. It's like a kill 110, come to the funeral.
It was a coyote, dude. It was a coyote. She just bing, got one, and then, dude, they just multiplied. It came in a full force, and then I gave up. I stopped fighting it and just accepted my fate.
I wonder how old the oldest coyote ever was.
Man, I don't know. You see some of these bears that get killed, right? And they're like pushing 30 years old. Like, I know obviously dogs' lifespan is way older, but I feel even like an 8-year-old dog in the mountains surviving is ancient.
I was hunting in a mountain range in central Nevada, and me and my buddy Adam were above 10,000 feet for like 5 days. Mm-hmm. Barely holding on to deer life, trying to get a mule deer with a trad bow.
No.
Didn't happen. It was an incredible hunt. But I saw a coyote up there above 10,000 feet on a Mustang trail that was 3-legged.
Good
just earning it.
I don't even know if I would shoot it, but seeing it that high with their 3 legs, I mean, that's just one of those things you almost just be like, good for you.
Well, I shot a 2-legged one.
What?
Yeah. So he had one front and one rear. He was missing a front all the way up next to his body. And then his other rear was still bleeding, and he had bite marks going up his leg.
Wolves?
Who knows?
Yeah.
Whether he got tangled up with wolves, with a mountain lion, with some
pack.
cow dogs, other coyotes.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of things that are against a coyote. But he was kind of moving weird across the hillside, but not weird enough that's what caught my eye. I was just like, coyote, grabbed a gun, shot the coyote, went out there. And, two-legged.
That's interesting.
Incredible animals.
They really are. People I don't feel like give them enough credit. They're tough.
And coyotes are hard to hunt. If you're like going out with the intention of hunting a coyote, it's not easy.
No, especially in a hunted area. I mean, nowadays it's such a big thing, right? I remember even 5 years ago it wasn't huge. Now everybody's just out slaying dogs all winter. I mean, that's all you see, and so which is awesome. We need it.
Yeah.
But now it's like, I mean, a few years ago you'd drive around any ranch property and there'd be just dogs running everywhere. Now it's just, I mean, God.
They're smart. They're adaptable animals.
They definitely get smart real quick. Better hit them first shot or they're educated.
And it's a little target. That's another thing people don't understand.
Yep.
They look big and poofy. You know, a lot of times when you're coyote hunting, you have a scope with a lot of magnification. You zoom way in. But their kill zone is about the size of a grapefruit.
It's really, it's really small. I think the best shot I've ever put on a coyote was $7.99 with a client. It was probably I'd say 90% luck. And I mean,
it's a half MOA shot.
Dude.
So can you hit a dime at 100 yards?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I could. Let's do it this week.
Okay.
I feel like I could.
Every time?
No, absolutely not.
So it's not just like that, because a dime at 100 yards is one thing, but you don't have to deal with 800 yards of wind.
See, I had a face like direct wind. So
spin drift. You probably have 4 or 5 inches of spin drift.
Absolutely. And it was with 6.5 Creed too. Your favorite. I had Christy's gun. It's my truck gun when I'm guiding, And this dog was just standing. I mean, just out there. And I ranged it out the driver's or the passenger side window, and I was like $7.99. I dialed 800, got out, put it on the hood, poof, and I hit him right above the elbow, in between the shoulder and the elbow. Yeah, and he spun around and just played down. He just didn't go very far.
It's a great shot.
Yeah, my client was like, "There's no way. The whole time." I'm like, "Well, stop moving." He's in the truck, bouncing around trying to get his binos, and I was like, "Well, we're gonna give her a shot."
I shot a coyote from a long ways away once.
I know.
In California.
Have you told this story on our podcast yet?
I don't think so.
I was gonna have you on my podcast to tell this story because it's that good of a story. You hold the world record. We'll wait on that.
It was a long shot.
Yeah. You know what else is really deceiving is antelope.
Yeah? I still haven't hunted antelope.
Dude, you're going to come to Wyoming with us this year.
Okay.
I got you.
Let's
We're going to do that. But, yeah, a lot of guys, especially with clients, I'd say that's one of the most missed things that I have guided. Guys are just like, man, I thought I was dead to rights on that. And then you get up to them, and they're just such a small-bodied animal. I feel like a lot of guys just don't realize it until you get up on them.
People tend to shoot over them, under them, not play the wind.
Yeah. No. I'd say a lot of undershots is what I get on them. I mean, it's just you see them, and once you get up on it, it's just such a deceiving animal. I feel like, personally, it's just, when I put, especially kids or anything on, I try to get them as close as possible. But I just saw a video the other day, some guy hammering one at 780. I was like, that's impressive. It's a good shot on an antelope. It's not much bigger than a coyote.
Yeah. Okay, so right now we are at the Gray Cliffs Ranch outside Bozeman, Montana, for the Sig Sauer Elite Hunter Training Forum. And you're one of Sig's elite hunters. We're flying 16 people, 17 people out here to this lodge to get trained on shooting and products with guys like Peter Howell, 20-year guide, Daniel Horner, 11-time international world champion.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Next level.
Pretty good at shooting guns.
Yeah.
And me. And we're going to go through some shooting, but we were just out on the steel course and talking about paint. And some of these targets were painted vertically so that half of it was blue and half of it was white. Left blue, right white. And I was mentioning to you that can be a deceptive target because your eye naturally goes towards the light.
Yep.
And you want that contrast between your reticle and that lighter color. And if you allow your eye to do that, then you've cut your shootable space down in half.
Literally in half.
So with an antelope, they're white on the bottom half of their body. So if the misses tend to be low, it makes me wonder if that's not what's going on, because most misses on most game animals are high.
Yeah. I mean, it could obviously, there's a lot that goes into, with a client as well.
Sure.
Because who knows the last time they shot. A lot of these guys come out and, I'm good at long range. And you ask them, 200 yards all day. And you're just like, guys from Alabama, out east, they just don't, or Texas, the guys, a lot of areas just don't get an opportunity to actually really poke out and shoot long range. And when they do, I feel like a lot of them just put a big giant steel target out there, and they're not actually trying to hammer an 8-inch, gong or a 10-inch gong at 5, 6 plus 100 yards. And so they come out and you get this animal and it's like, oh yeah, there's, it's just like when you see like a mule deer, right? It's just, then you get up on them and some of them just grow and you're just like, wow, this is a big bodied animal, but doesn't really look at it. Some things could just be deceiving, especially if they don't have the time behind it. So it definitely makes it interesting for that. But yeah, I'd like, it's just, there's so much. When you're not behind the gun, there's so many variables that can happen. And so it's hard to say with a client exactly what's going on. Some guys are just dead nuts. They come out and they give you a range, and I try to cut every range that a client tells me in half. Like I ask for sure. Like, hey, what are you comfortable to? Oh, 500 all day. Cool. We're gonna be at 250. That's going to be our. That's going to be our. If we can, I'll close it as close as I can. Even like I'm talking rifle hunters. I'll put it in. I treat every hunt almost as it's like an archery hunt. Like, cool. You could shoot 800 yards. They're so. Wind drift. You have the humidity. You got everything comes into play.
It's super
and so
hard.
I try to eliminate every single option that we can with a client. And like, hey, we're good right here. Well, we still got a lot of terrain to cover, and we have a lot of dead space between us that we can hide and get low. Like, why not close it in? I'd rather come over a hill at 150 yards and just almost like nothing's guaranteed, but increase the odds for that. So it's definitely. Could be interesting, but this place is next level.
It's a beautiful place.
Mm-hmm. I'm excited. It's gonna be a fun week.
You should see. Well, you're gonna see them later, but I saw the steaks we're eating tonight.
I saw what's in the oven.
So we were having Wagyu Prime Plus prime rib tonight.
Is this from the 6 Ranch?
No. It's my cattle don't make prime. They don't. They're a leaner animal, but. Man, we've been getting treated real good. I've been here for a day now, and the food is just incredible.
That's the first thing I did is I went and checked out the kitchen.
Beautiful place. Yeah, beautiful place.
Oh, yeah.
Saw like 800 head elk yesterday. It's awesome.
That's never bad.
And, so we're going to do some classroom learning, going to do some shooting, try and put it all together and start getting a couple of you prepared for another event that we have coming up that I can't quite talk about yet, but it's exciting. And then everybody else is either a guide or an outfitter or, somehow a professional hunter in the hunting industry. And we're just trying to improve the skills of everybody that's coming out here. And it's amazing because I don't think there's any other company that's ever done this with their pro staff. For sure not.
And it's almost one of those things like, why not? Why has this not happened?
Right.
Yeah, I'm really excited after switching over last year and running a few of the SIG products and just being blown away by it, and especially having young kids and with the BDX system. And I'll be honest, and you know me, anybody I'm going to shoot it straight. And I was really skeptical at first. Like, I try to stay away from the electronic.
Yeah.
I try to eliminate that, but switching over, it was just one of those things. I was like, I really want to try this. You hear so much good about it. And to be the fact that I can sit next to my daughter, range her target, and that dot pops up and she knows exactly where to hold, obviously, making her windage calls. But what an incredible system, especially for new hunters. Guys that they don't get the time to go out and just shoot and put rounds down range and get extremely comfortable with that rifle, which obviously you should do anyways, having no matter what system it is. But it's so nice to not have to worry about what's going on behind or in that glass. I know where my daughter knows where she needs to hold. I go out and I'll tell her, find me a target. She'll be like, oh, you see, and she'll walk me on. And there's all those little training tips, because I want my daughters to be able. Dad, there's a deer. Where? Right there. Well, where? Right. So find me a landmark. Walk me on. And those are little things that you try to teach them from such a young age. And now I can go out with my daughter. She'll be like, okay, the fence post. And walk me onto them, and I'll range them. Be like, hey, have at it. And dude, she's just center punching these rocks. And like we're putting clay pigeons out. I think it was like 550, and she's just hammering first shot every time. So that was the first day out. And I was just like, okay, me being a Marine, I can screw something up real easy. And it took a little tweaking, and I feel that there's if you can actually, once you get all the data put in and your dope and everything is locked in, to put it on a big sheet of steel, and that way you can make those fine adjustments to see exactly where you're hitting. Like, and it's really cool to be able to go in your app and be like, okay, 600 yards, I'm shooting 2 inches low. And you plug that in and it calculates it for you. And there you go. Your next shot should be dead nuts or pretty close. And so it's been fun.
Being able to make those little muzzle velocity and ballistic coefficient corrections is huge. It's an interesting technology. It really is. And I feel like it's just getting started too.
Yeah, and there's going to be hiccups, especially when there's always a new version, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is one of those things to expect. So far, I mean, I have run it in every condition except for extreme colds, and haven't had one. Only problem that I run into is I'll forget to turn it off.
Kill the batteries.
It kills my batteries. That's the only downfall on that. But I mean, it's just once you have the rangefinder hooked up, anyways. I mean, you can.
There is a motion sensor in it, so that if it's not moving, it'll time out.
Yep.
And you can set that for 2 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever you want. But if it's riding around in your pickup, it's
bouncing.
Yeah, it's telling it to be
Which
on
it's
all the
always,
time.
I mean, that gun never leaves my truck. So,
yeah,
I've learned my lesson a few times. So I went out and just bought a surplus of those little watch batteries.
Sure, they're cheap.
They're really cheap.
Yeah,
I mean, I grab a whole
50
stack out
cents.
of them, and I'll throw a couple in my bino harness and take them out, throw them in that little back zipper part of it, and that's it.
Have you been using those stabilized binoculars I gave you?
Oh man, yes, and it kind of ruined me on everything else. Like
it kind of does.
Not in a joking way.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, people, hey, yeah, here's my binos. I just got these new whatever, and I'm just like, but I have these. Like,
yeah.
And these guys, I mean, I probably have put them in probably 50 guys' hands so far, from Texas to Colorado, and you name it, all the hunts I've done this year. And I'll just tell these guys, I'm like, hey, all right, find something. Find that license plate, or hey, you see that sign down there? Just look at it. And I'm like, okay. And then, I'll flip it on for them. And every single person's reaction is just, holy shit.
Yeah.
I mean,
every time.
When I did my Colorado hunt this year, I mean, it's the fact that I could be going down a 2-track, and it was a late season hunt. The deer they've been shot at for 3 months now. And, I get to go out and do a call hunt or whatever, try to find a buck that's not busted up. So they're spooky. I mean, you come over a hill in 1,000 yards, and those deer are running,
sure.
And there was this you know how it is. The second you touch a brake, that's when they care. But you could just go by them 100 miles an hour, and they'll stand there. And I'd just tell the wife, like, grab the wheel. And I'd grab those binos, and, I mean, I'll just flip that stabilizer on. And, I mean, we're going 20, 30, 40 miles an hour down a 2-track, and it is, like, just solid as a rock. I mean, it is really impressive.
Yeah.
And I mean, where I really like them is when you're kind of, especially on the guiding point, we try to kill mature a deer as we can, right? And there's a lot of times where you get in these situations where we're on them, like in the corn. I mean, you'll be 20 yards, and people think, oh, you're 20 yards. When you got the adrenaline rushing and you're 20 yards from a deer, especially looks like a once in a lifetime buck, your adrenaline's pumping. I'm trying to pick apart and see, okay, how long are the tines? Does it have any kick? Just trying to pick apart the deer, trying to age its face, especially when they're bedded. It's so hard to age a deer, when that's piled in some brush or whatever. And we're right there. And I got an archery hunter 2 feet behind me, Dude, those, I mean, you flip them on, and it's like having your spotter on a tripod locked in there, and I'm laying on the ground. And not even, I mean, it's just, and I could see every little bit of detail. When your heart's pumping, I mean, that was the most crucial when I was like, okay, not even just the hunt, like just glassing aspect. When that adrenaline is maxed, and I'm trying to put my client on a deer that I know that they're going to go home extremely happy with and pick apart. I mean, it's just, boom, just was locked in there. You might as well be carrying a giant spotter with a tripod. It's that good. Yeah. Honestly, it works that well. And I mean, like I said, every single person's like, there's no way. Yeah. No way. No, like there's no, like, what, okay, like what are the downfalls? I'm like, well, I haven't found any yet. I mean, the downfall is it ruins using any other binos.
Well, I don't want to out the guy because he's sponsored by another optics company, but I just handed a pair of 16s, to a guy outside. And he had just told me, no, for what I'm about to do, 16s won't work.
Yeah. And
he smiled like a clown and then packed them off. And I don't know if I'm going to see those binoculars again.
No. It's honest. I mean, there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
It's just, there's so many, those were just a couple of the experiences that I was 100% set. I mean, it was no brainer. And I have
you have the 10 by 30.
I have the 10s. Yeah. And even those, but I mean, it's just for something that's really, really far and you're just I would put those, I'd roll my window up, put them on, and just hit that stabilizer and just, I mean, even far, I'm talking way, 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 way out, like something that you would not, you'd want to get out more powerful, or the spotter. Cut half of getting my spotter out, putting it on the window. I mean, you just pull it up real quick. I hit that stabilizer. Short times, fronts are short. Let's get out of here. Keep rolling. And instead of putting it in park, getting your spotter out, putting the phone scope, getting everything ready, and then pick it up maybe next year, right? And like now it's just binos, boom, stabilizer, nope, next, or absolutely no brainer. Like right away. It's God. I wish I could just hand them to everybody at a show and be like, try these. I mean, you'd be sold, right? I mean, it's one of those products
they've been selling out as soon as they get in stock, they just sell out immediately.
That's the biggest problem. People, hey, how? And I'm just like, you got it. I mean, the second they're hitting, they're going. But it's definitely one of those products that once you get it in your hands, it's sold. That it sells itself. There's nothing. It's fun.
Tell me about your 2019 guide season. You had like the magical mule deer year.
Oh my, yeah, it was a good year. Every year's been a good year out there. I mean, it's tough, I mean, we have about 350,000 acres, a little more. I've got us quite a bit more over the years, just door knocking and helping ranchers and pushing cattle with clients and helping fix fences and things like that. So we've grown over the years, but 2019 was unreal, man. I mean, I went out and didn't know anything. I mean, it was one of those like, hey, I need help. Can you come out and just for this season and I showed up and they're like, listen, here's your unit, find big deer and kill them. And I was like, okay, like I'll do my best. And so I honestly, I probably shouldn't even be saying this. I would be driving around like the night before clients were coming in like, okay, can I come in here? Like, I'm trying to figure this out. And it's just, but I mean, I take it so personal when a client doesn't tag out. Yeah. I mean, it hits me, like, that's me on that hunt, right? Like that's how I look at it. And so, so I go above and I mean, it's just those days where you're just over it. And you know how it is. You just, there's certain clients you just don't jive with. And we're very fortunate. We maybe get one guy a year where you're just like, okay, like maybe I'm rethinking my guide life.
And that's okay. Like not everybody gets along.
No, and that's exactly it. But once you learn your client, then you can mirror and match and what they're into and those kind of things. But it was one of those things, man, instead of we just grinded every single day. And it was at the same time learning a lot of this land and these draws, and then going from hunting mountains primarily to now hunting eastern plains where, okay, there's a muley. We might have to sit on this thing for 4 days during archery season because it keeps bedding in this 1,000 by 1,000 yard field that's a cut wheat field.
Right.
What do you do with that? Right. And it's like, you tell your clients.
Dig a tunnel.
Yeah. Hey, here's a couple options. What do you want to do? So, I mean, it's great. It's a lot of fun, man. I mean, we killed some giants. We killed a couple of 220 bucks. We killed a 230, bunch of 200s. I mean, and then when we do kill, I want to say, I'm using the air quotes on smaller deer, you're shooting these deer that are, I mean, there's no teeth in their head, and they still are 170, 180 inch buck. Like I'll walk by a 3-year-old 180 inch deer to kill a 5-6-year-old mature 170 inch buck. And it's like that 230 buck that made the cover of Eastman's this year. We're 100% convinced, it was on the cover of Eastman's, this year. I passed that deer. He's a 185 inch buck the year prior.
Wow.
And standing in the road rifle season.
Blew up.
And my client's like, I'll shoot it. I'm like, nope, dude, sorry, man. It's a young buck, and he's literally 20 yards. I have a video of it somewhere. 20 yards, standing in the road in front of my truck, and he's got these devil hooks that come out. And I was like, sorry, bud, needs another year. We'll find one, And we killed that deer in the same field the following year and went 233.
Wow. Amazing. There's a big difference between a 230 buck and a 220 buck. And I feel like people don't understand that. Like those inches you start adding on after 180 really, really make a difference in how that deer looks.
And muleys are so cool because these guys come out and they'll be like, I want a 200 inch deer. I always ask, hey, what are we looking for? I love you point and tell me to kill it, bam, I'm killing it.
Yeah.
Those are I pray for it. And obviously, guys, we get clients that have killed mule deer. We have a client that comes out, and I think he's got like 30 bucks that are over 200 inch. I mean, this guy spends hundreds of thousands a year on just killing giant deer. Well, obviously, you get those guys, but a 220. I mean, these guys are like, I want 200-inch deer. And I'm like, you realize a 200-inch buck is literally a 170-inch deer with kickers, like some trash on it. If you knock off the main, all your little point, I mean, it's a 170-inch, 180-inch buck, which is a great deer. I mean, I'd shoot one all day. And so, but you get those two, like I have a 220 buck and a 230 buck right now at home, the replicas in the office. And when people come in, they come into the office and they're like, what the hell are those? And I'm like, and they get talking. I'm like, which one did you shoot? I'm not even kidding. More than half the people have picked the 220 buck over the 230 buck because they're big. And that's what I love about mule deer is they're so different. I mean, you get a 220 deer, and I got one that's pushing 30 inches wide, and he's short tine, but he's got almost 50 inches of mass. So then you get a 230 buck that's deep forked, kind of a little bit more spindly, but not as big or wide. And so mule deer are so fascinating to me, and it's just every one of them is different. It's like you never find one except for the straight typical that is just like, oh man, like. I've killed a couple like that. At least me, where we're at, the genetics are just unreal. I mean, that 240 buck they killed this year was just stupid.
Incredible.
Stupid. And so, the fact that you get to go out and see that quality of deer and be able to see it week after week, or at least every other week you stumble across one. And what blows my mind about the Eastern Plains hunting is where do they come from?
Yeah.
You drive by a field the whole season in this area, and you're hitting it every single day, and nothing. Like that 220 that we killed 2 years ago, I had a couple clients miss them the year prior in 2019. A couple clients miss them, and I looked all 2020, the fall going in 2020. Gone. This deer disappeared. When my last client missed it with a rifle, I watched that deer run for 40 minutes. I mean, it was just a dust trail across the plains, right? And I was like, well, it's fun seeing that. And I looked for it for the rest of that season. And then the following year, I searched the whole year for that deer. Gone.
Yeah.
The last rifle hunter, first day. Deer was standing in the field that my last client the year prior missed it. In the same field within 100 yards of each other, where he was. And it's just like, where did he come from? It blows my mind where they just pop up and they'll just appear. Where does this 240 deer come from? Like, how are there not pictures of this thing? How do people not chase it all over? 240-inch deer is unreal. I mean, just unreal to be able to hold something like that. It's just, where do they live? I mean, they walk these little draws. All those little creek bottoms. That little divot can be.
I've shot elk smaller than that and been super happy about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. All my elk are smaller than that. every elk I kill is smaller. I've killed bigger mule deer than my elk score. Every elk dies, dude. Every elk dies. They don't. Hey, I'm an opportunistic elk hunter.
The little ones taste better, man. Those older bulls, they don't taste good.
You killed older big bulls, so you have that excuse. Like, I'm more of a taste guy these days. I just kill the first bull that comes in every time, and then I'm like, fuck. Just a first day, first hour, boom, arrow through it. Cool, I'm tagged out. Then I'm just like, why did I do that every time?
Dude, I love hunting big bulls. I really do, and I love guiding big bulls. But I bought a cow tag this year, and had this big herd of elk come through the ranch, and I was asleep. It was like early morning, and my neighbor called me and was like, "Hey, there's elk on your place." And I get the voicemail like half an hour later. I'm like, I don't really want to listen to the neighbor's asking me to like go pull him out of a ditch or clean a ditch or
what does he need
something
this time?
to do with a ditch.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And I'm like, I see this big swath of tracks through the snow. I'm like, what is happening? Go out there and big herd of elk standing there, and I was like, where's a little one? Okay, that's a calf. Give me one size up. Yeah, yearling steps off to the side. You win. And it was delicious, man.
Best. They're the
Frickin'
best.
Gourmet. Dude, yearling cows and spike bulls are the best meat I've ever had in North America.
You like it better than blacktail?
I haven't had blacktail. I haven't had blacktail.
I
haven't had axis. I'm going axis hunting next week.
Axis is the top.
I've heard that's good.
I'd say my list would be axis, antelope, blacktail.
Antelope.
I love antelope. One of the greatest meats ever.
I'm excited.
Taken care of properly.
Got to get it cold quick, right?
Cold quick. Get the hide off of it immediately. There's so many of these guys, and antelope's the most rancid. They shoot an antelope, they throw it in the bed of their truck, and they drive around all afternoon with their buddy and trying to get them tagged out. I literally, when I'm guiding them or even on my personal hunts, I have a cooler full of ice and I have an empty cooler. And as soon as I do it, get a picture real quick, cool, happy, get the skin off of it, and I just start packing it in ice, and then you can keep on hunting. And it's just, you take that extra little bit of time. You wouldn't even know you're eating antelope. It's so good. I love it. And
Yeah.
blacktail's blown away blacktail. And I shot an old buck this year.
Yeah.
Old. And I was kind of, even whitetail every now and then. I'll eat a whitetail and be like, it's all right. It's just whitetail to me.
That whitetail that I killed in Nebraska this year was incredible.
See, so my Idaho whitetail tastes better than any whitetail I've killed in the South.
Yeah.
I don't know what, I mean, in there, I feel like there wasn't any, like, there was hay fields, nearby, but there wasn't corn or any so they were living in these little river bottoms, kind of flats in these little, with those little willow tree, like those patches of willows and stuff, like that's where they were. And I was kind of this, we'll see how it goes. It was a decent, old, mature buck, and nothing like any of the East Coast or Southern, like Texas whitetail. I thought it was way better than that blacktail. I was kind of like, oh, well, we'll see how this goes. Being just an old mountain buck.
Yeah.
And man, the kids, even everyone was like, wow, this is really good.
So I've heard that the Sitka blacktail in the summertime, like when they get them up in the alpine zone in Prince of Wales or Kodiak, that those are fantastic. And locals can kill those deer in like July and August, maybe. I don't know. All fine and good. It's subsistence hunting, and I've heard those are really incredible. I'm pumped to try Axis.
Oh, it's a sweet meat.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that's what it's hard to explain to people because they're like, oh man, like mule deer and whitetail are the greatest, and I'm just like, wait until you go to Africa,
dude. And that's why it's another level, because Impala, hartebeest,
kudu, zebra was amazing.
Zebra's very good. Hippo's not bad, actually.
God, I want to kill a hippo so bad. That's on my top 5.
It's dense, but it's got a really good rich flavor. Cape Buffalo is good.
Yep,
but,
Buffalo. Sable was really good.
Really.
Mm-hmm. And I hate to say it, but it honestly shits on any meat here, like beef. I would eat Africa game over anything here.
See, you are turning into a foodie. You were joking about it earlier.
I wasn't joking about it. You were just laughing at me. you thought I was joking. Hey, my palate is I'm trying new things. Okay?
Highly refined.
It is. It really is. I mean, it's fun. And like kind of in a joking, not joking way. We're trying so many new things, in the last year or two. Cool. You get your meat back. You cut it in the steaks. You get burger. Like it's just so generic every single time. And so, us being this, we've kind of just absorbed this bear killing family now. And it's just, we're killing 4, 5, 6 bears a spring between Oregon, Idaho, and Montana, or wherever I can get a tag and take the kids. So it's like, I have all this bear, I got all this elk, and it's just, I'm like, we got to start. And so we started canning things. We started just trying all new jerkies and marinades and just slow roast and all this without going like super meat eater, eating the stomach lining. I'm not going that far, but just trying new cool things and new recipes, and just, it's been a lot of fun. And then getting the kids involved with it. Now that Chrissy, she's full swing hunting. I mean, she killed a doe and she killed a little, bear this year. So being able to process this stuff with them, but then just doing cool and packaging it or canning it and be able to give it to people and other friends and stuff like that. Like, she gets a lot of enjoyment out of that, and we all do. I mean, it's fun. You came over in the middle of a canning session, and everybody's involved, and so it's just.
I know. I think Britt was kind of mad at us because she had to go to the store, and she's like, "We're not canning meat tonight," and then she went to like this gas station a mile away and came back, and we're like, canning bear.
We're searing it on the grill. It's only, the water's already boiling.
We're canning bear tonight, Britt.
Canning is it takes up some time. Yeah. I mean, it's not like, hey, let's just knock out a batch real quick. I mean, you're looking at, it seems like just to do one batch is 3 hours from time of processing, searing it, getting it canned, and then putting it in, letting it cool, and you're just like, it's a long. If you don't start before 6 o'clock, you're going in the late night.
So Lampers told me last spring, about this time, maybe a little bit later, that the canner to get was the All-American canner, and they're the best canner out there. And I tried to order one then. Of course, it was COVID, and everybody's into sourdough, and it was like the rage to can, and you couldn't get them. And I was like, well, I'll just wait until winter. So a couple months ago, I was like, all right, now's my time. Nobody's thinking about canning right now. And I called All-American, and they told me that they weren't even going to be shipping until September of 2021.
What? Wow, good for them.
Yeah, they're crushing it. So I was like, all right, there's no more waiting it out at this point. So I just started scouring the internet, and I found one, and it was expensive as hell. It definitely got price gouged, but I got it bought. So at least now I'm set up to be able to do it, and I don't have to, borrow my mom's stuff. Mom, can I borrow your canner?
That's what moms are for, man. that's what we use them for. But it's fun. I mean, it's a lot of fun trying. Yeah. And then what we're doing is we're doing different seasonings inside the can. So we're doing like Britt makes like a Mississippi roast. I don't know if you've had it yet. You will next time you stay over. That and like taco meats. And we did a big snowboarding trip with a bunch of vets this year, and I brought out a bunch of cans.
That's awesome.
Popped them open, threw them on the skillet and the Camp Chef, and like we're making
so good.
Yeah, and this guy's got like carne asada and like pulled pork, pretty much. Like and bear breaks down just like a pot roast.
Yep.
You would never know the difference. And these guys were just.
It's a safe way to eat bear.
It really is. Cooks it, gets the trigonose out, hits the temperatures, and everything's safe and you're good. And it's just, I mean, it's phenomenal. You throw it on some mashed potatoes with the gravy. Oh my God, it's next level.
So one thing that I did this year that I was kind of proud of myself for is I took all the bigger bones out of my elk, and I cut them down into like 2.5, 3-inch chunks. Mm-hmm. And then I was making soups and beans and stuff with those, with the bone marrow in them.
Yeah.
And that bone marrow is really incredible. And that's really the first time I've ever messed with that stuff.
I haven't done it yet.
It's amazing. It's just, it feels good to eat it. You feel good after you've eaten it. It just, I think, humans have been doing it for a long time, and it's fatty.
Well, there's
and
a ton of nutritional value to it. And so, I mean, I give it right now with Brody being so old, at 14, I give him all the marrow and in the broths and stuff. But yeah, that's one thing that Britt's definitely wanted to get into. And I think what we're going to do this year, and I have a ton of it still, which it doesn't technically freeze, is bear fat. I want to start rendering it down and cooking with it. And so every bear, we all cut it, depending on the pack out and where we're at, and,
sure,
with that. But those bears, you got 2-3 inches of fat on them. And I'd always look at these things and be like, even though you technically don't have to take bear out in a lot of areas, there's not a lot of, certain areas don't have a wanton waste on it. So technically you can leave the meat. You just have to bring the hide and, head out. I feel so bad, killing it. I love bears. They're such an awesome animal to watch and to kind of study and just get to know. So, I want to do the respect and bring the whole thing out. And I'd always just leave so much fat on the mountain. I'm just like, and every time we'd be like, oh God, like we got to go uphill for a couple miles. Then we got to cross a river. I'm like, I don't need the fat that bad. But then last year I was just like, you know what, screw it. And I'd just start hacking just giant chunks. You get 5-10 pounds off of one little slab off the back, and it's just like, all right, cool. And I have it all in my freezer still. I don't know if it sours or not. I haven't looked up that yet, but
it's still going to be good. So here's the mistake the first time I rendered bear fat. I'd read that you had to cut it into 1-inch cubes to render it, and I was like, that doesn't even make sense.
Mm-mm.
You do. Like, go ahead.
Oh, really?
Go ahead and do that.
Okay, so you just threw like a whole chunk in and tried to do it?
Yeah, I was throwing in like, I was cutting it up, but there's like fist-sized chunks, and, I was just trying to rush my way through it. And it takes a long time to render it out. And the smaller you cut those pieces out, the less gristle and stuff you get. And
Can you almost run it through a grinder, almost like burger it, or no?
You might be able to. I think, I would just follow the directions. And the directions say 1-inch chunks and simmer it for a long time outside because it definitely smells.
Oh, yeah.
But once you render it down and you get all the cracklings out of it, and then you pour that stuff through cheesecloth and into jars, it is just beautiful, and it doesn't have that odor anymore.
Pure white.
Pure white. And
it almost looks like coconut oil in a way.
It does. And it's awesome on leather. There's nothing better for pastries. Like, there's no better shortening for pastries than bear lard. So
I didn't think of that. See, now we're talking.
Yeah.
Now we're talking.
So I, take bear fat over to my grandma, and then she's like, "Oh, I'll make you a pie," and I'm like, "Yes,
hell yeah,
yeah,
I want one."
Full circle.
I want a grandma's pie. I want an apple pie, or like a mixed berry pie.
Especially if you kill the bear out of that orchard.
That's cool. That would be the ultimate.
Yeah.
That would be like my like, all right, I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
To kill a bear and then do a start to finish in an apple orchard, then make a pie at the end with the bear fat.
Yeah,
it doesn't get much better than that.
No,
it's I love, dude. Just trying new things is so much fun. And you screw some things up, and you're like, okay. Like, we did a actually, my buddy in Hawaii sends me these big jars that they, when they kill those pigs over there, they'll do the big strips, and they throw it in a cooler, and then do this, like, really citrusy marinade. And then they hang it, and they smoke. It's unreal. Well, he sent me a bunch for pork, and I was like, like bears kind of resemble a pork in a way, right? Like the feed and everything, obviously not meat structure, but we went to marinade, do jerky with it, and the citrus broke I want to say it's a citrus because this is the most like acidic marinade that I had at that time in bear meat, and dude, it like broke down the meat fibers where it was like mush. And we ended up doing a bunch of it in a batch because I was going to do jerky. Then I did the back straps as well. Threw the back straps on, cooked them up, and like all of us kind of bit into it. We've eaten a lot of bear prior to this, and so nobody even hesitated. It's not like, oh, this is new. We're trying bear, like for the first time. The kids just, and I'm watching the kids, and they're just all like doing like the Play-Doh in your mouth kind of feel. And I'm like, what's wrong? And they're like, I don't know. And then Britt takes a bite, and she's just like, something's wrong. And I'm like, what do you mean something's wrong? And I did it, and like I took a big bite. You could smush it with your tongue. Like it just, it threw it off.
Doesn't sound good.
No, it was horrible.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, we don't have to eat this. Like we screwed up. It's just, but now I know like something really, I mean, I don't know if we just left it to sit too long, but I was only, I think, like a day or two, which whatever, shouldn't have broken down that bad. But yeah, it was really mushy.
That's funny.
It was different. And so we're like, okay, now we know, something really high acidic levels maybe doesn't go in the bear meat for that long.
What's new with Kryptek?
A lot, man. We got a lot of new gear coming. If we can get it here, COVID really slowed everything down. I mean, it's really kind of screwing us right now in the fact, not in a bad way. I mean, the shows being canceled was huge for everybody. I mean, it was kind of a year to breathe, and now we're developing we're taking this time that when we're normally at shows and doing the hustle and bustle of every single trade show, now we're taking this time to develop a lot of cool stuff. We actually have, I don't even know if I should talk about it. We might have to blur this out, but we're coming out with a waterfowl line. I'll find out if we can talk about this or not. So we're coming out with a waterfowl line, so developing a new waterfowl.
This is going to come out tomorrow.
Okay, fuck it. We're sending it then. So let me make a phone call tonight. Anyways, we're coming out with a waterfowl line. The pattern is awesome. We're still working, tweaking it a little here and there. To be able to like develop a pattern and how many layers go into something is so much fun. I mean, and then you remove one layer and it changes the look of everything. So then you got to like start all over and figure out, you start with your lights on the bottom, then build dark, and then just knowing which layer to put them in a way. And it honestly, but as far as like gear wise, man, I'm really excited. We got some really nice, obviously the Obscura pattern launch this year. We did a soft launch. We really haven't even launched that yet because of COVID, we went to launch right in the middle of it. So it was just horrible timing. But other than that, I mean, it's going really well, man. We're growing like crazy. A lot of changes for the good. I mean, we restructured a lot and moved some people around in the back of the company, which is now just excelling us. It's fun. I mean, we're hiring. We're getting ready to bring on a couple new guys, which I'm really excited to train those guys up and allow me to do more of my position there and start working with a lot more guide and outfitters.
Nice.
And so, yeah, it's good, man. I'm really looking forward to the future.
So we're, out here, SIG is bringing in guides and outfitters. And instead of just like sending them their product or like giving them a discount on their product, we're flying them to Montana from all over the country.
Unreal.
And then training them on these products. Kryptek is doing a lot the same. So your relationship with guides and outfitters is not standard like the rest of the camo companies.
I try not to be.
So how do you do that? How do you create a new model?
Honestly, it's listening to the guys at the end of the day and really getting in their heads of what they want. Bringing them out. That's why a big thing of you were one of my first guys that I called. Yeah. And it was just bringing in killers. Like at the end of the day, absolute killers. And there's a difference. I mean, and that could be a whole nother podcast itself. There's between a hunter and a killer.
Huge difference.
And you tell it to some people and they just look at you like, what? Like, I'm like, a killer? You put a round through something, they already got that bolt racked and they're putting a second round in it, even if they know it's it's just guys are killers. And so that's what those are the guys that are live, breathe, eat, sleep the mountains or just the fields, whatever it is. And so that was a big thing with me this year is picking these guys that are just die hard in the field, running 50, 60, 70 clients through multiple states and just listening to them. Like, what do you guys want? What do we need to help you? And so being able to take that back and be like, okay, we need to change this a little bit or develop this, or hey, this might be something we really need to look into. It just helps us at the end of the day. Like if I'm going to be wearing gear 300 days out of the year, like I want it to be comfortable. I want it to be able to perform. I know that I can trust it when I'm anywhere I'm at in the world. And so that's where bringing guys on like you. And this is kind of like a mentality that we have, not to this level, but bringing in these guides and outfitters and sitting them at a round table and be like, okay, you've run all of our gear for the last year. Let's hear it. I don't even want the goods. We already know what's good. I want to know what you hate about it. If you hate anything about it, what needs to be changed. And so cool. Things are great and work awesome. I mean,
and that's the awesome thing about a veteran company, because that's the way we're used to giving each other feedback.
Yep.
Like a compliment from you is a nicety, but it doesn't really benefit from me. A criticism benefits me because now you've identified something I didn't know about myself that I can start improving on.
Absolutely.
And that's really helpful. Like that's how we make each other better. And a lot of civilians haven't ever communicated with each other in that way. And it's not like they're sensitive or softer or whatever. I'm not saying there's anything bad about it, but they just haven't had that experience of communicating in that style. And it makes progress slower. Because you can't be like, hey, your baby's ugly, but this is how you fix it, right?
Yes.
But you can roll into Kryptek and be like, this didn't work, and this is what needs to be improved. And you guys are like, oh, thank you. That's awesome. We're on it.
And it's the reason I do that is because I've worked with a lot of companies where they'll send me something, and I'll be like, I'll just stare at it and be like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever run. Like, this doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
Like, if it's not working, and I'm not some crazy Remy Warren, these guys that are just next, I'm just an average guy. I'm the same as everybody else. I work, bust my ass, and get my gear, and I want it to be able to perform to how I'm going to use it. Do I hunt really hard and break a lot of things? Yes. But as far as performance-wise, and so I would see these problems and be like, and I'd reach out to these companies and be like, hey guys, like this little change here is going to be next level. And they would get so pissed off sometimes. Like, because people, just because you're an owner or work for a company doesn't mean I don't want to hear the negative. I do.
Right.
Right. And so same, like referring back to the Marine Corps, like if you're fucked up, I'm going to tell you you're fucked up. That's just how it is. Right.
Yeah.
And so, but not saying anybody's soft or sensitive, but they just haven't been given the proper information on some products. And I'll tell you, dude, there's a company this year that I ran their bipods for the last 2 years, and I hated them. I hate everything about this bipod. I'd set my gun down, it'd fall over. I've never had a gun fall over on a bipod. I'm gonna say it. So this is a good story. So in Spartan Precision, Spartan bipods, right?
Yep.
Oh my God, dude. I've never had so many meltdown. Like I legitimately threw an adult tantrum this year on an antelope hunt. I set my rifle down on flat ground and it just fell over. I've never had it happened 3 times this year. I've never had a rifle just fall over. I ripped that bipod off and I hucked that thing so far, and I had like 3 at home, and I'm like, done. I'm done. And I threw on my buddy's like Burris, what I don't know, one of those just
whatever
Walmart bipods, right? Fold out. Guess what? My guns weren't falling over. Everything worked fine. Well, they saw that I didn't have their bipod anymore, and they reached out. And I was like, oh, man, it was late at night. I was really tired. And I was like, cracked the knuckles and just started typing. And I did it tactfully, but in a way that they needed to know. And I sent them videos and pictures, and I was like, I'm done with you guys. I'm no longer, like, I'm sorry. Like, this works great for putting on a bench, and when you got time and everything's great. They wrote me back, and they're like, bam. They're like, we don't even make those bipods anymore. Those are obsolete. We've come out with so many new versions. They're like, God, and I held off because of companies in the past. They'll get mad at you, right? Not mad, but they take it personal. They think just because you're like got an influence or a following that you're just gonna be like, this is the greatest product in the world. And that's not me. Like, I'm not going to tell some guy to buy a product that I don't believe in. I think that's the worst thing you can ever do. And so, it's especially these blue collar guys. People dude, I follow you for tips, or like hit you up for advice on things, right? And it's like, if you were steering me wrong, I mean, there goes everything that like I thought you were. And so I never want to be that guy. Granted, does some gear work better than others? That what works for you might not work for me. Sure. But when people ask me, I'm like, hey, from how I hunt and how things are, this is what I love. So I when Spartan reached out to me, and I told them, I was like, this thing is garbage. I'll never run these again. I was like, this is why. And I gave them all these points. I was like, if you guys need to consider this. They threw a box together, and I had it at my house in like 2 weeks. So they got shipped across the pond. Unbelievable, the new products they have. And just the fact that they went out of the way and they watched who's running their gear or why it wasn't. And I was getting ready to, and it was one of those, like, I had the cool off kind of periods because it cost me like a really good go at this one opportunity. And so it was just one of those, like, you don't want to have, the bipod's the last thing you should ever have to worry about. But hey, they found that those were problems come with their Gen 1 bipod, and they went through and redeveloped like 3 or 4 different ones, and they sent them. They're like, run them all. I've run 2 so far throughout the end of the fall, going into spring now, and man, I haven't had any issues with them. And all those little tips pointers that I was like going to recommend, or I did recommend, they already had them, they implemented them, and they already had it changed before I even knew that. And I was like, but that's from listening to a company and bettering your product.
Yep.
And so I was like, good for you guys. Like, that's incredible. And so, yeah.
And you have to keep improving.
Always.
Like, you can't be like, yep, that's good enough.
No, and when you do, that's when you just get stagnant, and somebody else is going to develop something better or take what you have and just make a better product and develop that. And guess what? There goes everything that you worked for. So you're constantly having to evolve. I mean, we got some really cool gear out right now, some moisture wicking technology shirts, like hot weather ones that are hoods. I mean, they're so awesome. I mean, for that just miserable antelope early archery season when you're just sweating all day, kind of like how you and I did our hunt in August and shot that camel. So, which I just found that picture the other day and went and looked.
Nice.
I looked at the comments and I was just laughed. I was like, that's a good memory to pop up.
So an example of a company that kind of rested at where they were, and it cost them everything, is Sears. So Sears was this huge company. There were Sears stores everywhere. Mm-hmm. They had a catalog that was bigger than the New York City phone book. You could kill a man with it. It felt like Sears would never go away. Like they were just a household item. Yep. Definitely a household name. And they had the opportunity to be Amazon. And they're like, no, we do stores and catalogs. And they're bankrupt. They're gone.
Innovate or die.
Yep. You have to keep going.
Mm-hmm. Like, and there's a lot of things the behind the scenes where probably 3, 4, 5 years ago, Kryptek probably would never even have considered, because we didn't want to go that path or that route. But now the way that the world's changing, like, you just have to find out, and new avenues approach. And with social media, it can be flipped off at a switch now. I mean, it's scary what we've gone through in this last couple of months with the whole change of presidency and the way that social is going as a whole. It's scary, man, to be a Second Amendment friendly, pro law enforcement, pro military, everything now. For a lot of people listening, they're not going to see it right away. There's a line being drawn in the hunting industry, especially in these camo companies and product companies.
Yep.
You're going to start seeing these companies not posting as many kill pictures, posting more scenic pictures, more hiking pictures. They're going a lot of solids because they're trying to capitalize on this. And I'm going to say it, and you could blur, they're granola hunters, right? Mm-hmm. Or these people they're kind of on the fence, but they don't want to offend anybody or want anybody knowing what they're actually doing, is where some of these companies are going, and where Kryptek's going. We support our troops. We support our Second Amendment. We support the rights in this country of freedom of speech. And so that's where we're on that side of the fence. We're never going to bend the knee. We're built off of killing. That's what a camo company is built off of. And a lot of these companies now are trying to hide it and like try to covering it up with funny, cool little marketing things. And so here in the next year and a half, you're going to see a big, I get phone calls every single day. I'm done with so-and-so. This company, I'm not going to support this anymore. I see the path. People are starting to get a little view of the future. I'm really interested to see where it's going to go, because, you're seeing these companies hiring these new marketing people, and it's just, we just sit back and just shake our heads like, oh my God, I don't know why this company, I don't want to name drop any companies, but we have insight on all this, and it's just, they just hired some vegan marketing director out of San Francisco to run. We're just like, what? Like now, and all of a sudden within 2 weeks, this company went through, they put some back on now. We've had this conversation, but they removed every kill picture off their website. And this is a huge hunting company.
Yeah.
And they caught a ton of flack for it at first. They made a bunch of their pro staff have to sign NDAs that their pro staff aren't even allowed to sign, or not even allowed to post pictures before being approved.
That's censorship.
It really is.
Yeah.
And this is a company like you're based off killing things. Like, let's face the facts. Like, we're
Right.
not harvesting, we're killing at
Yeah.
the end of the day.
It's not a carrot.
It's not a fucking cornfield, okay? Like, we're out killing. We might be killing shit in the cornfield, but
Yeah.
and so that it's crazy to think that. And these companies, I'm really curious to see how the industry goes here in the next. Because, I mean, you take these riots and we could talk the Capitol storming, right? We talked about it a little bit earlier. We got hammered, absolutely hammered, because people wore Kryptek for the riots, the Capitol storming, right? Even though we all know how that went. And this company went through and they picked every brand, every logo that was Second Amendment friendly, military friendly, law enforcement friendly, gun friendly. And there's how many people, thousands of people were there, but they went through and found the pro companies, right? The right wing, I guess, companies is how we were labeled. And they made a list. They went through screen by screen, picture by picture, and found every logo, every brand, and made a list of it and sent it to all the news stations, major news stations. So we were getting phone calls from coast to coast. And then they sent it to all the major marketing or social media platforms. They shut off, I think we were running like 130 ads. They shut 130, 140 ads, maybe more. They shut everything off. We went down, they knocked us down. I think it was like 3 ads that I couldn't even run an ad on ranch gloves. And it was because
wild, dude.
They didn't want us inciting more violence because of our platforms, is what the excuse that they were coming back with.
Which you haven't done at all.
And nothing.
You haven't done at all. Not even come close to it.
But did you see Patagonia on the list? No. Did you see
Nike,
Adidas, North Face, whatever,
yeah.
Right? None of those. It was all, they went through and did their homework, and they found companies that, are gun friendly or hunting friendly, and they just put it all on this list. And overnight, I mean, it's crazy to think that. And it's just, that's what the world's coming to. So you have to innovate or die. So one of our things was, hey, maybe we need to go back to a lot more print media. Can't shut it off. Maybe we need to start hitting these apps, the My Outdoor, things like, Carbon TV. Maybe those are routes we need to go.
Go wild.
And so, exactly. Yeah. And so it's just things like that. And, it's just, where do you go next? And so some of these companies are trying to go soft so they're not getting flagged and monetized so much. But we don't care, man. This is who we are. This is what we're built off of. We're veterans. We're not going to bend the knee to anybody. This is Kryptek. And so, it's interesting to see. I'm really curious to see where the industry goes here in the next year and a half.
I know this is going to seem a little bit moto, but when you, as a Marine, swore to support and defend the Constitution, like, did that feel like just a step, like just something that you do, or did you feel like that was a serious thing?
To me personally, I got goosebumps, dude, thinking that. I'm from upstate New York, so I joined literally, I watched the second plane hit. I was in study hall, never forget. I'm in study hall, Mr. Agliano's class. Kid come running in. Plane just hit the World Trade Center. It's on the news. And they're running. Teachers are going down the hallways like, turn on the news, turn on the news. Soon as he turned the news on, I'm talking 5 seconds. Poof, second plane, right? So that hit personal. I mean, that's home. I'm not from New York City. I've never even been to New York City, but that's home. It's your home state. Yeah. Mine at least at the time. And so that was a no-brainer. I mean, I was supposed to be playing college ball that fall. I mean, I had my whole future set, and I was just like, okay, I need to do this. I need to go, And watching everything that happened after that, and I was like, okay, so I'll never forget, man. It was so hard for me to raise my hand and take that oath, like at the depth, when you swear in as a pulley or whatever, at the depth, when you take that oath, I mean, it was personal. I mean, and I had a lot of pride at the time, and so it was just one of those things, like I knew I had to. It wasn't even a choice. It was one of those, like, okay, like, fuck, I gotta do this. And so it wasn't like going home like, okay, like, I don't know if I'm gonna join the Army. It was like, I'm going to Marine Corps. Like, and honestly, what made me join the military was once the guys pushed into Fallujah, I was on spring break with my girlfriend at the time, and we turned on the news station to get an update of what was going on. And all you can hear, and I didn't know what it was at the time, it was a 50 cal. It was the Ma Deuce on a Humvee, and there was a news reporter in the Humvee, and you could hear him just like trying to report it. Then they were calling in. There was no, dude, we didn't have anything. I mean, God, we didn't even hardly have the roll-up phones or the cameras where you'd take the picture, That's what we were dealing with. But this guy was on a sat phone in Iraq reporting in on the news, and you could just hear Marines in the in the background screaming, and then you could hear this 50 cal just hooking and jabbing, but it was the brass hitting the hood and the roof or inside the Humvee. And I was like, what is that? Like, you just hear like, shift fire, all these guys screaming, doo, 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 doo. It was like, the dude, brass falling is the most like beautiful sound ever.
Yes.
Especially coming from a full auto. I mean,
Yeah.
the Mod Deuce or even the Mark 19 is just the greatest sound ever. And I was just like, I need to do that. That's it. And so I literally was like, I went to a recruiting station, signed the dotted line, off I went. But yeah, I mean, when I swore in and raised my right hand, man, it was an emotional thing for me. Like, I was ready for it.
And in all seriousness, after you're out, do you feel like you still have an obligation, or do you feel like I did my time and it's over with, or do you feel like
I'm torn, dude? I'm really torn on that, and I haven't communicated it, so I don't even know how to really. But like, I did my time, right? Served my country. I did 2 tours, got out. I went back to Afghan on the civilian side. And then that's when I started a family. And that's why coming back and then kind of going into the new civilian world, right? I've let it go in my mind. I've prepped myself, and it's hard because like contracts are going. Like, I love being deployed. If I could have stayed deployed my whole career, I would have. If I didn't have a family, I would never would have left if that was an option. And now that I have daughters and they're at that age where like it's just so fun and just I love it. I love being a dad. It's the greatest thing I could ever be. But at the end of the day, this is our country. And so if I was called, it would have to be for the right reason, right? I get hit up, dude, let's go to the Capitol. Let's go. We're going to fight these leftists and fascists. And I'm just like, dude, I've done my fucking time. Like, I went across the world and fought a war for you. Like, drive your ass to Portland and go put some body armor on and go take care of it yourself. When you need me, I'll be there. But that's my mindset. I know a lot of vets are like, let's go. And I get hit up by a lot of vets. But I'm at a point in my life, like, if I'm going to risk something now, it's got to be for everything and for the right reason. And so is it hard looking at our country where we just were to now where we're headed, and just the way that it's just getting so soft? It's disgusting. And it's like, I've had these conversations with Britt, like, was it pointless? Was it pointless to join? I mean, fuck, dude, how many guys got killed? How many guys are wounded? I have an organization because of this.
Yeah.
But now we're finding out all this information. Like, I'm not trying to go on like some QAnon thing, but like, there's a lot of stuff that's coming out of like just they knew there was never weapons of mass destruction. They knew all this information, but we did it anyways. Do I have any regrets? Absolutely not. I saw the lives that were changed. I mean, for Christ's sakes, man, I was calling my ex-wife at the time, ship me as many boxes of pencils and paper as you can. That's all these kids would ask for. When you know how it is. When you're going door to door every day, and these kids, we'd go into these schools, and these kids, Mr. Pencil. All they wanted was to learn. And we would open these towns up. We'd go to these towns that were shut off by the Mujahideen at that point. I guess it's all just ISIS now. But if you remember the Mujahideen and Alibaba and all that. And we'd go to these towns and open them back up. And then we would literally escort these kids from each side of town. There'd be a squad on each side every morning. And these kids would pretty much meet at a bus stop. And we would escort them to school every day. So they knew that they weren't getting messed with. There was like no harassment from, the Taliban or whatever. And we'd drop them off at school, and these kids, please, mister, please. And so, we would just be handing out little notepads and pencils. And now, imagine coming from a third world country where you're shitting in a hole in the ground. You don't even know if you're eating food or what you're having for dinner that night. All these kids would ask for a pencil and paper. So, like, I know the good we did. I helped build playgrounds and rebuild schools and get these kids going again and getting communities going again. But, like, for what?
Yeah.
Right? Now, at least. I mean, if we're on the same path, I had no problem until last year of like ever question my service, and like I don't question it now. Like it was something that I have a lot of pride in. There's very few people that can say they joined the Marines and they deployed and had time of their life. I mean, I just had a friend at my house all this week that I haven't seen in 8 years that we deployed together. I went to boot camp with this guy. We did everything together, and so but you have that brotherhood and the bond. You have the honor. You have just the traditions of everything. And, so that'll never die in me, but it's like, now I look back at it and like, fuck man, like, what are we doing? Like, where's this country going?
It's really tough. It's really tough for me as well. And I look at it in a similar way where I feel like what I actually did in Afghanistan had very little impact on Afghans, on the rest of the world, if any.
Absolutely.
And it had a negative impact on all those Marines who went there. Like,
Yeah.
we all came out of it
fucked up.
We all
Changed.
came out of it broken in different ways. In all kinds of ways. But we went in there as professionals.
Yep.
And we upheld the tradition of the United States Marine Corps, which is not an easy thing to do.
It's not, man. They're big shoes to fill.
So the things that Marines have been doing have been impressive for, since 1775.
200 years.
It's been impressive, right?
It really has.
But then the things that we did are impressive too. The effect, the impact, I don't think it was positive.
No, man. No.
But
you can't look at it like that, James.
We kept the machine going.
Yeah, and it's not our job to worry about that. I feel like. Well, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a cool conversation because you're the officer side. So I like hearing this. So like as a troop, it's not my concern to know if we're obviously at the end of the day, I don't want to come in and just rape and pillage, right? Like that's just not what we're about. So from my point of view, like it's weird, man. It's hard to explain. Like I wasn't concerned if we're doing good or bad. I was concerned about keeping my guys alive and getting our mission done, right? Yep. But I feel on the brass side of things, the senior officer side, like they're the ones that are hearts and minds, right? And so I don't know. It's just weird. But I mean, did I make a difference in Barwana or Ramadi or Haklani or like Haditha? Did we make a difference? I don't know. I mean, I saw smiles on kids' faces, but the Iraq war is completely different than Afghan. Afghan is that's like, I look at it. I never fought in the Afghan war, like in the Marines. I went as a contractor, but even still, that was nothing. I feel that was more of like a jungle ambush type war. When in Iraq, like you'd go into a town and I mean, you'd kick in a few doors first day and then things would calm down real quick, And so then we were able to do these little missions of being able to do some good. But I mean, I have buddies, man. They just, it was a horrible experience for them. I mean, when I got out of the Marine Corps, I hated the Marine Corps. I hated it. And that's why I got out. I went to work every day and I was disgusted to put on my, just because how everything changed. And that was just more job, not Marine Corps as a whole. That was just being an Amtracker, being the worst fucking MLS in the Marine Corps. But I hated it at that point. And I knew it was time for me to go because I didn't want to be the next generation of just a pissed off staff NCO that hated my life, that was miserable, treated everybody like shit. And I was like, you know what? If you don't like it, change it. That's, I'm one of those. I'm a big firm believer. And so that was like that decision. I was like, I joined the Marine Corps because I had so much pride at the time, and now I hate it so much. Like, I need to get that back, so I need to step away so I can appreciate it. It was one of those things like boot camp. You don't appreciate boot camp till it's over. Then you could sit with your buddies and be like, you remember you got fucked up that day? Like those drill instructors just hammered you. So it's one of those deals. But I mean, as far as like deploying, I mean, I kind of went down a rabbit hole, but as far as like, it's tough, man. It's a lot of guys came back broken, and I don't know if it was worth it or not. But I mean, for guys like you and I to be able to provide opportunities for these guys, and right now is a really hard time. I mean, we just finished a snowboarding clinic in Salt Lake, and these guys, every single one of them are like, man, this is the first time I've done anything in a year.
Yep. And
these vets, and then now the new party, they don't care. I mean, they're not considering that what these guys. I mean, these vets, they need a brotherhood, they need a support system, and now they're locking everything down. It's just I can see what's coming, and I know I've seen what's happening. I mean, a lot more guys are the stresses of losing this country and fighting for it. It weighs on every single veteran's shoulders that's been to combat or been forward deployed or just been in some shit. And so it's like, I mean, dude, I had a huge. I mean, you and I talked about it when you were at the house, like. It was just one of those straight just meltdowns. I'd see this Antifa and they're tearing down statues of everything, history.
Yeah.
I don't care what history's history. When you erase history, like
it's the only thing we have to learn from.
And that's it. And cool. Were these guys slave owners at one point? It's history. Like that shouldn't be erased. That should be something that's studied. And look where we're at now. Look where we've come so far from those days. But oh my God, he had a plantation at some point. But forget everything that this person paved for this country. And they just focus on the negative, and they just want to erase it. And that's the worst thing we can do. And like you see these generals, these statues of generals and stuff, and it's like they're tearing them down. It's like, what are we doing? And so I felt the weight on mine, and I know every vet sees that. You see what's going on in Portland. They're burning, and these cops are just standing defenseless. And it's like, it makes my blood boil. Like, I didn't go to war to watch this country do this.
Well, and a lot of those police are veterans as well.
I have buddies that were at the Capitol, and they were just sending me videos every night, like, still here, man. I'd be like, you safe? It's like, yeah, like, we're here. And it's crazy times. And so, I mean,
a buddy of mine who was on SWAT in Oregon ran out of 12-gauge beanbags.
Did he? Lucky. God, that'd be
the
fun.
Time of his life.
God, that'd be fun. Yeah, there's a guy.
It's also terrifying. You know, that's such a bad place for law enforcement to be. And I really feel for them. And they're doing their absolute best. I got pulled over in Idaho on the way here. I haven't been pulled over for years on Lola Pass. It's 50 miles per hour. I was doing 62. The guy was coming past me in the opposite lane. I saw him tap his brakes, go around the corner. There's a pullout. I pulled in there. He pulled up behind me. He goes, "Were you waiting on me?" And I said, "Yeah, I saw you tap your brakes."
They usually cut your brake when you do that. I've learned with my experience.
Well, you know, it's a curvy-ass road. I don't want to make it more dangerous for him by seeing if he's going to pull me over and being on some blind corner.
Yeah.
You know, and he's like, "Got your license? Got your registration?" Yep. I was already out of my rig. Had a gun on my hip. Like, wasn't a factor. He was polite. I was polite. Mm-hmm. We parted ways and went on with our lives. Like, we should really be understanding that these guys have a super dangerous job that they're doing all on their own. They're on a deployment 12 months out of the year.
365 days a year.
Forever. It's a forever deployment. Mm-hmm. And yeah, they get to come home at night, but they don't really get to come home because they're tethered to this phone where anything that comes up, that phone goes off and they have to respond to it. They're always keyed up. And then you're going to give them a hard time because somebody 11 states away did the wrong thing?
Yeah. Like,
just treat them like a human being.
I've had a lot of run-ins with law enforcement. I mean, my record is not the cleanest.
long but distinguished.
Hey, if you're going to do it, you gotta go swing for the fences. And I would say 75% of the time, 80% of the time, me being the person I am, I deserved it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've gotten tickets for doing 155 and a 50, operating a motor vehicle on one wheel while standing on one foot. I mean, you name it, I've gotten a ticket for it. I've run several times, not proud of it, got away, thank God, because I was still in the Marine Corps at that time. But every single cop that I've showed respect to, respect back.
Yep.
I mean, I got pulled, like, literally was racing a car doing he said I was doing 155. I was doing way higher than that. And I'm like, yeah, you got me. Like, busted, right? And you just show the respect. I mean, I've been pulled over before in the middle of Wyoming, the middle of the night, cutting across that pass, trying to get to Colorado. 2 guns on the front seat, pistol next to me, doing 100 miles an hour, get pulled over, roll the windows down, cop rolls up, hey, got firearms in the truck, sorry, here's my license registration, already have it out, not digging for anything, not cracking my window, whatever these people say on these YouTube videos that do these like law enforcement checks, which is just drives me insane. You're going to sit here and argue with the cop for 15 minutes, give him your license registration. If you screwed up, take it on the chin like a man. Okay, go. If you think you're wrong, you're wrong. But like cops, man, I mean, just beat up. I mean, it's got to be so tough to be a cop, right?
And here's another thing. I'm not saying that every policeman is going to return respect to you.
Oh, no.
Because they're human beings. Mm-hmm. And
they're pissed off. You don't know what they've dealt with that day, what's going on at home. Now they're dealing with some punk-ass kid, some guy that's speeding in the school zone that's like bitching at. Yes.
Who knows? But I can promise you this. You being respectful in that situation is not going to make it worse.
No, not at all.
So just be respectful.
He's not going to be mad at you for being like, yes, sir, no, sir. Like, absolutely. Yeah. Roll your windows down. Turn your vehicle off. Like, I don't care. Like, oh, they can't ask for a driver's license. Who can? What are they going to? They got your license plate. They already know who you are. Like, why do you think they sit in their car 5 minutes before they even get out? They already run everything on you.
Just be respectful.
Just give it to them. And it's crazy though, man. But I mean, they go through a lot, and I've been saying it for the last year or two, and it's gotten even worse. Law enforcement is in our era of the Vietnam vets now.
They are. Yep. And I think that we're going to be ashamed about the way we treated them them in the same way that people are ashamed of the way that Vietnam veterans were treated.
And those guys deal with I did a ride along in high school, and for 2 weeks, because I was interested in going to law enforcement, I went changing. I'm so glad I did it. After 2 days, I was like, get me the fuck out of here. I mean, we went to houses that were hoarders with kids in them, having to do health and wellness checks. I'm talking paths through houses with cat shit everywhere. I mean, stunk so bad. I'm like, what am I doing? I'm just a kid. Why am I even in this house, first off? This is the worst school project I've ever had to do. And just dealing, I mean, you'd go to a call and people automatically would be all over these guys, like, get fucking screaming and just treating them. I'm just like, God, every day, huh? Yeah, man, it's part of the job. But then you'd go and they'd do some good and it would make you feel good. But God, I mean, I give cops I give them a lot of backlash. You know, I got a lot of cop buddies and I'll always post something, throw little jabs at them because I know they follow it. And but I mean, in all honesty, man, I feel so bad for cops these days because they just get beat up, man. It's a tough job. Like I wouldn't want to be a cop.
Did you know that COP is an acronym?
No, I didn't.
I just learned this. It stands for Constable on Patrol.
I had no idea. I've never even seen that, I don't think.
So, and that just goes to show that we care so little about our law enforcement that we don't even understand what we're calling them.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
That's true.
Like that should be standard knowledge.
They really should. Huh, that's interesting.
Constable on Patrol.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, man,
good times.
I'm excited for this week. We're going to have a blast.
Yeah.
We're going to shoot some prototype guns that aren't out yet.
Ooh.
That's always fun. Got a big old pile of ammo. It's going to be great.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a blast. And the fact to be able to come out here and check out new things is going to be interesting. And it's cool on the guiding side because I get a lot of questions on social media. And I don't know it. I mean, I'm just a guy like everybody else and people are like, how did you do that? Here's what I did. Now I'll be educated on the top level with the top shooters in the world right now here at this ranch with us. And I mean, who would not want this opportunity? I mean, when you were like, hey dude, you're going to Montana and you don't have an option. I was like, okay, like one, I'm not going to argue this. Two, like when and where. And so, but the fact that like the quality of people that SIG is partnering with and bringing on, it just shows you they're not playing, man. Yeah. SIG's here to take over, and they are, and they're coming. And you want to talk about innovate or die?
Yeah, moves so fast,
unreal.
I mean, so fast.
When you first were just getting on with SIG, you're like, man, like I'm so excited. There's some cool little things that I'm working on, and then it was like, hey, bam, here's this thing that I worked on. I was like, what the hell? Like, how? And you're just like, these guys don't play. I mean, they come up with an idea. And and they have these engineers, and that's more than I honestly want to come out and tour the facility and see everything. After you came back and told me all the stories, it's definitely in the back of my mind. But just the fact that they have teams of just, hey, this is what we want, this is how we want it, figure it out.
Yeah,
and they do.
Yeah,
I mean, not very many companies can play with money like that and take the time. And if it fails, it fails, and they're not worried about it. Okay, well, let's start over.
Moving on.
Next.
Yep.
Let's develop this machine gun.
Sins of the past.
These exact specs. No, nobody else can do it. Well, SIG can do it.
Yeah.
And that's the mentality. It's pretty ballsy. I mean, it's awesome.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, man.
This is a long one, I feel like.
It's a great one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not crying. You're crying.
Yeah, I know. All right. See you guys later.
Later, buddy.
This episode is brought to you by Stanley. It's that iconic hammer-tone green thermos that women filled with soup while they were building B-17s, and men used to carry coffee when they flew those bombers into combat. It's that faded stainless steel bottle that's seen more trees felled and calves branded and barbed wire stretched than any living man. 6 generations of Americans have been using Stanley to keep their coffee hot and their beer cold. They have a 100% leak-proof lifetime guarantee. And now it's not just the old green thermos. They have camp cookware, drinkware for that evening scotch, coolers, and some sweet titanium bottles that are light enough you'll throw one in your pack when you go hunting. I love a company that lasts by making gear that lasts. And if you are anything like me, you will also appreciate gear that's more likely to end up in your will than a landfill. I'm not offering a promo code where I get a kickback because that just isn't my style. But they do have a sale starting March 1st over at Stanley1913.com. Check it out. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share the show with a friend. You can also rate the podcast and leave a review. Your support allows me to keep doing what I love, which is meeting incredible folks and sharing their stories with you. For more content and photos, follow the show on Instagram at Six Ranch Podcast or me at Six Ranch Outfitters. This episode was produced by Emily Brannigan, with original music written and performed by Justin Hay. Art for the Six Ranch Podcast was created by John Chatelain and digitized by Celia Christofferson. Tune in every Monday for a brand new episode of the Six Ranch Podcast. I'll catch you next week.